Hey, what's up, YouTubers? It's me again, Brian, aka Gamer55551, and I am back with a My 2 cent Switch slash gaming video where I take a look at some of the stories that came out and give you my thoughts and my opinions about them. So why don't we get started with the first one? And the first one I want to talk about is Fortnite, that recently, as some of you may have been aware of, just came out for the Nintendo Switch. And from what I've been told is that apparently, or from what I've been reading, is that the game has done pretty well on the Nintendo Switch. I believe I've heard somewhere that it has been downloaded about 2 million times, which is obviously a good thing. However, some controversy recently emerged over this, and this has to do with the policy that Sony has, in which they are opposed to cross-platform. In an article, let me get it out. In an article from The Verge, VERG, and again, I'll have a link in the descriptions for these stories. Though, it's been reported that the company. It's reported that when the Battle Royale game session Fortnite arrived on the Nintendo Switch during E3 2018, Sony immediately blocked cross-platform between players on the Switch and its own PlayStation 4. The company went a step further by forbidding Epic's account that were personally linked to the PS4 from working on the Switch version of the game, preventing people with both consoles from syncing their progress with and items earned or purchased between the two platforms. So Sony has refused to allow cross-platform between PS4 and rival consoles for several other games. It seems okay with PS4 players who are being pitted against PC or mobile games, but not anyone using an Xbox One or Switch. The Fortnite situation has thrown the company's anti-competitive, bad for consumers behavior on the spotlight. On June 14th, Sony issued a statement on the growing controversy saying, "We're always open to hearing what PlayStation community is intended to enhance their gaming experience, but the company has given no indication that it will reverse its decision." It also has been reported that their stock took a hit after this controversy, though. Let's see, it doesn't point out exactly where it hit, but there's an article that points that out, though. First off, I do want to say that I am a fan of the PS4. I like the system. I like the game. I do enjoy the games, though, and I'm looking forward to several games that will be coming out later this year, such as Spider-Man, Ghost of Tsushima, and so forth. So I do like the PS4. Having said all of that, I do agree with some of the criticisms leveled against Sony on this, and honestly, I think it's a stupid policy for them to begin with. Though I believe that if a developer wants to make a game that is cross-platform, they should. I don't see what's wrong with this. I don't see what's wrong if someone has like a Nintendo Switch and wants to play a game that can also be played on, like, say, the Xbox One. If they want to compete against someone who owns an Xbox One, let them do that. I think this is a dumb, idiotic policy for Sony doing this, and some of the people are pointing out that some of this is money, and that certainly is true, and that certainly is a possibility. But some of it could also be that since Sony is way ahead of both the Switch and the Xbox One, that they sort of sit in the comfortable position right now that they don't have to do this or anything like that. And I think that could hurt them in the long run if the whole cross-platform between Microsoft and Nintendo start to take off even more. And so for me, this is a dumb policy on their part. As much as I like the PS4, they really should not do this. I think if a developer wants to make a game that's cross-platform compatibility, though, if I'm trying to get that word out there, then yeah, let them do it. Let them make this kind of game. Let them make that kind of game with that kind of situation. I don't see what's wrong with that. So overall, I think it's a dumb policy on Sony's part, and I really think they should reverse their decision on this. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we're going to get to part 2 of our story. And let's see if I can, what's part 2? Part 2. Oh yeah, part 2 of our story over a comment Nintendo made regarding loot boxes. So we'll take a quick break and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 2 of our video. This is my 2-cent video, and for this one, we're going to take a look at a comment of basically, the comment that basically Reggie Fils-Aimé, the president of Nintendo of America, said regarding the issue of loot boxes. Now, I'm sure most of you are aware that loot box has been on the or games with loot boxes have been on the spotlight recently and have been under the radar big time. Ever since the whole debacle of a mess that was Star Wars Battlefront 2, where EA decided to get a little too greedy and basically use the Star Wars name as a way to have people pump millions and pump money into the whole loot box controversy, and we all know the amount of backlash that has generated though. Well, apparently Reggie Fils-Aimé has weighed in on the comments regarding loot boxes, and I honestly have to say I'm kind of mixed in this response though. So in an article on Game Radar, Reggie Fils-Aimé has recently put up his 2 cents though. According to the article on Game Rant, I said Game Radar, I meant Game Rant, my bad, and of course the links will be in the description of this video. The latest person to offer their 2 cents on the matter is Nintendo of America president Reggie Fils-Aimé. In an interview with Bloomberg, the Nintendo president said, "Loot box, broadly speaking, have gotten a bit of a bad rap." Fils-Aimé compared the business model to baseball cards, as the people buying them are spending money without being sure of what's inside. While Reggie does note that developers had made some mistakes when it comes to the implement of loot boxes, Nintendo believes that there are just one mechanism or one thing able to drive ongoing engagement in the game. According to Fils-Aimé, Nintendo feels that loot box can be interesting as long as they are not the only way you get those items. Those who dislike loot boxes may be disappointed that Fils-Aimé hasn't outright condemned the business model. However, that was always unlikely given that Nintendo has regularly featured loot boxes in its mobile game. Fire Emblem Heroes made millions using the gacha-style unlock in which players randomly unlock characters, though they are able to see the list of odds. Animal Crossing Pocket Camp also recently introduced a loot box-style mechanism in the form of fortune cookies. Moreover, as Fils-Aimé himself noted, loot box can drive long-term engagement with players. Nintendo has already spoken about its desire to release more DLCs for its game in an effort to increase engagement. Loot boxes can also be seen as a way to get players to spend time and money on its titles once they be released, and so fit well with Nintendo's business plan of moving forward. Many of Nintendo's partners and those that release games on its platforms feel similarly and won't want to make comments that actively disrupt those relationships either. But some may be glad to hear that Fils-Aimé and Nintendo support loot boxes that don't contain exclusive content. While some would prefer loot boxes were not included whatsoever, many are willing to accept them if they don't include game-affected items, are cosmetic only, and the content can still be unlocked through normal play, as Reggie Fils-Aimé suggested. That won't satisfy anyone, but as it seems, Nintendo has no plan to ditch loot boxes anytime soon, making this some form of compromise. Okay, I do want to state though that I am kind of mixed on this in some ways though. I will say for the record that as far as microtransactions and DLCs go for Nintendo, they've been pretty good with it though, okay? While not all of it has been perfect, such as the controversy surrounding Fire Emblem Echoes for the Nintendo 3DS, where they offered a season pass for $40, which, while they are known to put a lot of content in it though, still $40 maybe seem too much, though maybe not on the same level as what EA did with Star Wars Battlefront, the first one, where they charged $50 for a season pass, but still, some people may not be happy with it. I will say, for the most part, Nintendo has been pretty good with this, though. I mean, Splatoon has gotten extra updates and content to it. Same with ARMS as well. They did a good job with the DLCs in terms of how they handle Hyrule Warriors when that was released for the Wii U. Although now the definitive edition for the Switch now has pretty much all the DLCs in it, though. And as far as their mobile games go, I haven't played Animal Crossing Pocket Camp, but I have played Fire Emblem Heroes. And as far as unlocking the characters go, you can unlock them with the orbs, which, while yes, you can use in-game while you can purchase those through microtransactions, there are other ways you can earn orbs. One way is to log in every day when you play the game. You automatically get one orb. Two, if you basically have a My Nintendo account and you link that game over, or compete in certain events that will award you orbs as well. So as far as microtransactions and DLC goes, Nintendo's been pretty good about it. I'm not saying they're perfect, but they've been pretty good about it. That being said, I can understand why some people may be worried about this comment, and this all goes back to what happened with Star Wars Battlefront 2 and the whole debacle and controversy about it, though. And how the fact that some companies can get a little too greedy and push it a little too far that end up pissing off a lot of people and generate the amount of backlash that Star Wars Battlefront 2 is. So I'm pretty much mixed about it, though. I don't like the idea of microtransactions in $60 games. I'm not a big fan of the idea. But if it's done the right way, it's something I'll tolerate. If it's simply cosmetics only, though, and it doesn't impact the game progression or it doesn't impact any gameplay whatsoever, that's okay, though. I still hope that they have the option that you can unlock it without paying for it, but if it's cosmetics, I don't have a problem with that, though. If it's what Ubisoft did with Assassin's Creed Origin and Far Cry 5, where yes, they do have microtransactions, and they do have where you can spend to buy in-game currency or these silver bars that could be easy, that you can easily buy weapons, but doesn't affect the progression system, and that everything can still be accomplished without having to spend microtransaction. Again, to me, I think that's borderline. I think that's pushing it maybe a little too far. But as long as the progression system is not impacted in any way and everything can still be accomplished without having to use microtransaction, and done so without like creating a situation where you have to spend money on microtransaction, again, I'll tolerate it, though, but I'm not a huge fan of it. Between the two, I think the cosmetics is the lesser of the two evils, though. So I think it's pushing it a little too far, but as long as progression is not impacted, though, it's something I'll somewhat tolerate, though. It's when you start doing what Star Wars Battlefront 2 did or Middle-earth Shadow of War did, where they create a situation where you are forced to use the microtransaction. That and reports of how Activision was following a patent to create a situation to encourage people to spend money on microtransaction. I mean, once you start going down that path, I'm sorry, but that's where I have to draw the line. I cannot accept companies that will create a situation that forces people to use microtransactions. That is something that has turned me off from a lot of the mobile games out there. There are only a few mobile games that have done well with the microtransaction, and that is Fallout Shelter and Fire Emblem Heroes. But once you start creating a situation to force people to use microtransaction, I have issue with that. And I do have concerns about this, especially as an uncle myself, in which I have several nephews who are getting into gaming, which is good, and I don't have a problem. Whatever games they get into, that's up to them, and that's their call. But when you hear situations like, can you unlock this for me and pay like what $9.99 to unlock it off of the cell phone, or hear stories about how some kid used a parent's credit card to spend over $1,000 on in-game currency, though, I have issues with this. So I'm very mixed about Reggie's response. Yes, I think if done right, microtransactions don't have to be an issue, But after what happened with Star Wars Battlefront 2, and after what we saw with Middle-earth Shadow War, I do have some concerns about this. So we'll have to wait and see. Hopefully Nintendo doesn't get too greedy with the loot boxes, and hopefully they'll still make sure that we can still accomplish everything without having to spend a dime or anything like that. But overall, I'm very mixed on the comments Reggie said about loot boxes in general. Okay, we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, we're going to get to part 3, and that one is going to be about the piracy issue and how Nintendo is certainly cracking down on it. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 3 of our video, and for this one we're going to be talking about basically Nintendo cracking down on a lot of piracy that has been going on. So I think earlier this year, it was reported that the Nintendo Switch was hacked and everything, and well, the fact that it was hacked and all that wasn't really all that surprising, considering that it was only a matter of time before someone found a way to hack the system. I mean, I'm sure it's the same thing with Xbox One and the PS4 as well. But apparently it seems as though Nintendo is cracking down on a lot of these people who are pirating and hacking their system. In an article from GameIndustry.biz, link will be in the description, their article states that Nintendo has implemented a new anti-piracy measure that are reportedly able to perfectly detect whether a digital copy of a game has been purchased legitimacy. The new measure comes just a few months after an unpatchable hardware exploit left the Nintendo Switch completely exposed and facing a potential security nightmare. However, Nintendo is now cracking down on illegal downloads, and users with pirate softwares will see their console permanently banned from the Nintendo network. Reddit user Scaries, SCIRES, who offered a detailed breakdown of Nintendo's new security measure, urged others not to pirate games as it will lead to their console getting banned. Nintendo can detect whether or not the used connection has data from a Nintendo authorized game card for the correct title. This person explains, this solves the 3DS era issues of game cards headers data being shared between games. Additionally, there's a fair amount of other unknown encrypted data in a certificated being uploaded, and certificated are also linked to Nintendo account where gold points are redeemed. Sharing of certified should be fairly detectable for Nintendo. In the digital game case, Nintendo actually preferably prevents online piracy here. Tickets cannot be forged, and Nintendo can verify that the device ID in the ticket matches the device ID from the client's certain CERT connection, banning on a mismatch, as well as the account ID for the ticket matching the Nintendo account authorizing to log in. Users who pirate games definitely cannot have well-signed tickets for their console, and thus cannot connect online without getting immediately banned. This is exactly how I would have implemented authorization for digital games if I was them. Now, this gave the impression that this is going to impact used games and all that stuff. And according to an article from Nintendo Life, when they posted the article, they also posted an update. And they said, quote, to avoid any upset or confusion on the matter, and for the sake of clarification as we currently understand it, only game cartridges that have been used to create illegal copy of software will receive online bans from Nintendo. Most pre-owned cartridges and those who have purchased yourself brand new will still work with no issues. So obviously it's not games that, got the, approval from Nintendo and all that stuff. So the fact that they're cracking down on hackers and all that stuff is certainly interesting, though. I mean, I'm not surprised the Switch got hacked or anything like that. I mean, I have no desire to hack my Switch or anything like that. I want my Switch to run perfectly fine. But There are those that are doing that though, and they're willing to accept the risk though. And obviously Nintendo is very serious about this. So if you hack your Nintendo Switch, there is a good chance you could get banned. But it appears as though they're not abandoning physical copies or anything like that. So it doesn't seem that they're doing that or anything like that at all. Or, going after those who buy a used game, like if you buy a used copy like at GameStop or something like that, it doesn't seem to be impacting that. It's just if you just hack it or anything else like that though. So honestly, I'm not surprised the Switch got hacked and everything else, and I'm also not surprised Nintendo is clamping down on those who are hacking and pirating the Nintendo Switch. And I would say to those who are thinking about, hacking their Nintendo Switch, I personally don't think it's worth the risk or anything like that. Others may see it differently, but I honestly do not see that any benefit of pirating or hacking your Nintendo Switch at all. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we're going to get to part 4 of our story of our My 2 Cent video, and this one has to do with the possibility that GameStop might be in trouble. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with our 4th and final part of our My 2 Cent video for this week. And this one we're going to be talking about GameStop, which unfortunately it seems as though that they may be in some financial trouble, and there is a possibility it could go the same way as Toys R Us has recently gotten this year. In an article on Engadget, though, it says, it wouldn't shock you to hear that GameStop has been suffering as downloads have taken off. Now, however, it might be looking for help in the wake of a Reuters leak. GameStop has confirmed that it's in talk about a potential transaction. While the retail chain is shy about what those decisions involve and isn't promising a deal, the source claimed that the chats were in response to buyout interests from private equity companies like Syncam Partners, SYCAMORE, apologize if I'm not saying the name correctly. The talks come after months of upheaving. CEO Michael Mahler left his position in May for personal reasons just 3 months after taking the role, leaving board member and former Xbox executive Shane Kim to step in as interim chief. And in 2017, GameStop had to both close 150 stores and grapple with a serious credit card data breach. While it's far from certain there will be a deal, it won't be surprising if one comes to pass. Despite diversifying its offering, including everything from tablets to figures, GameStop has still been heavily dependent on physical games and consoles, and pushing used game sales can only do so much in an era where digital rules. Why go to GameStop when you can buy your console on Amazon, download your game straight from the source, and avoid the usual pre-order and warranty pitches? A sell-off wouldn't necessarily help GameStop for the reality of technological process, but it could give the company an opportunity to regroup and adapt to modern eras. Now, I know that there are a lot of people who are championing and saying, down with GameStop, I hate GameStop, and all that stuff, and I heard all those stories before. And honestly, though, I'm not saying GameStop is immune to any criticism. They have their share of criticisms before. Some people have complained about customer service. Others don't like the idea of, the GameStop credit card that they try to pull. That being said, based on my time going to GameStop, I really haven't had any major issues, okay? I'm not saying I'm speaking for all GameStops, and I'm sure for every GameStop where the employees treat you well, there are probably those that do, pardon my language, do treat you like shit. At the same time, I'm sure GameStop employees have had to deal with customers that do go in and treat them like shit as well. So the fact that this is happening to GameStop is, while unfortunate, it's not really that surprising to me, as we are moving more and more to a digital era. I mean, what happened to Borders is unfortunate, but it's clear a lot of people are moving more and more towards ebooks, although there's still a Barnes & Nobles where I live, though, and I think there's still a used bookstore that I know out here as well that's still around. And it would be very unfortunate if GameStop were to go under. It really would, because I've shopped there before. I haven't really had any issues and all that stuff. But at the same time, it is a changing trend. I mean, Blockbuster went under when we start to see the rise of Hulu, Amazon Instant Video, and Netflix, though. And unless GameStop figures out a way to fix and how to adapt themselves to a changing environment, then yeah, we could see them go under, though. Again, I know there are some that don't like GameStop and are glad if this happens to them. I personally am not one of them. I don't have any issues shopping at GameStop. I've visited, I've been in GameStops before, and I haven't really run into any issues, but I can't speak for everyone else. So it doesn't surprise me that this is the situation it is. Hopefully they can iron this out and basically get everything under control, but I wouldn't rule out the possibility that we could see a Toys R Us kind of a situation. And honestly, while I do understand digital distribution would be the new norm, I still prefer the physical copies, though, and it would be really shame if that went away. However, because I mean, I just feel that there's a lot of hurdles with digital distribution right now. I'm not saying it's not going to happen. I still just prefer those physical medias instead of the digital distribution. Some people may have to see it differently, but that's where I'm looking at it, however. So overall, we'll see how this plays out. Hopefully GameStop can fix it, though, but I would not be surprised if they suffer the same fate as Toys R Us has. Okay, this concludes this My 2 Cent video for this week. And again, these are my opinions. What are yours? What are your thoughts about the Fortnite controversy that's been going on? Do you think Sony is right not to implement cross-platform? Do you think that there's nothing wrong with that policy? Or do you think Sony is dead wrong on this? And do you think this will hurt them in the long run or not? What are your thoughts about Reggie Fils-Aimé, president of Nintendo of America's comments on loot boxes, though? Do you think he's spot on? Do you think he's right? Do you think he's wrong? Are you worried about Nintendo implementing loot boxes in, say, like, their games down the road, or do you think they'll handle it very well? Do you think the backlash is still there after what happened with Star Wars Battlefront 2? And what are your thoughts about Nintendo cracking down on piracy and, hackers, those who hack the Nintendo Switch and all? Do you think this is a good thing? Do you think this is a bad thing? Do you think that Nintendo's right to go after these hackers and all that so forth, though? Do you think it's worth the risk hacking your Nintendo Switch, or do you think it's not worth the risk at all? And what about the situation GameStop is in? Do you think they'll recover from this? Do you think they'll be able to stay afloat? Or do you think this is the end of GameStop? And do you believe that they will suffer the same fate as Toys R Us has? Do you agree with what I said in this video? Do you disagree? Do you have a difference of opinion? As always, sound off on the comment section below. Let me know what you think. I would appreciate if you hit that like button, and I also would be grateful if you subscribe to my YouTube channel. Make sure you hit the bell icon for notifications, though. Also, feel free to share this video if you want to, and feel free to donate to my channel if you like. You could do it through PayPal Me or Patreon. Links will be in the description of this video. And I will see you again next time when I do another video. Hopefully that will be soon. Until then, from Southern California, I wish you all a good day then. Bye!